Welcome to Conversations with Verdel Jones. I'm your host, Verdel Jones. And being an educator at heart, I'm dedicated to sharing conversations that inform and enlighten in the hopes that you learn something you may not have known. Thank you so much for stopping by. Make sure you like and share the show so everyone can hear all the great information that we're going to be talking about today. We're going to have a really great conversation. I'm excited because we have two educators here. So this is really going to be a great show. So we tape live from Paradise Studio. Actually, I'm at my home, but we we're live from the Strong Island Television Network. So again, thank you for watching. We're in season 5, and season 5 is about embracing your life. And this spring, we're kind of focusing on reflecting and what people are reflecting on at this time of the year. You can see us every second and fourth Thursday of the month right here. And we are also on Roku. So you can see us on Roku on the Strong Island Entertainment channel. There's a lot of other great shows there, so you can check out some shows that they have there as well, including Conversations with Verdel Jones. We're also on Comcast on the Rewind Network, which is in Delaware, DC, and Wilkes-Barre, and Scranton, Pennsylvania. So check your local listings for that. We're also looking for sponsors for the show. So if you want to support quality content, check it out. Put my information up there. You can give me a call. And we also, if you would like to be a part of the show, you can have your very own Conversations with Verdel Jones mug. So you can go to my website and check that out as well. So let's go right to the week in review. We had a great week. Memorial Day weekend just passed, and we had the opportunity to spend time with my parents and my grandfather, which was really, really nice. You know, with everything that's going on with COVID-19, we haven't been going to my parents' house. We don't hang out with them. But this Memorial Day weekend, we were outside. We were masked up. We, 6 feet apart. My dad put all the chairs in a circle. My mother cooked. And it was just nice being with family. My grandfather, he's 93 years old. God bless him. And he's staying with my parents right now. And we really just had a great, great time. So I'm very blessed and fortunate to have had the opportunity just to hang out with them. So Father's Day will probably do the same thing. And hopefully, things will loosen up a little bit. But, we have to be masked up and do what we need to do to protect ourselves and protect others as well. So I want to get right into the show because we are talking to two educators and their missions are focused not only on educating people, but also they're dedicated to supporting them as well. So when we come back, I'm going to welcome America's educator, Dr. Steve Perry. He's going to help us unpack the education that our students are receiving during this COVID-19 era. So we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to welcome Dr. Perry to the studio. Yeah. Welcome back to Conversations with Verdel Jones. As you see, I have my first guest here, Dr. Steve Perry. Welcome to Conversations with Verdel Jones.
So glad to be here, sis.
Thank you. Thank you. I think this is your third time coming to the show. So I'm so excited that you always return because every time we have a conversation, it's always inspiring and thought-provoking. So I'm looking forward to our conversation today.
Well, as am I. Thank you.
Thank you. So today, for season 5 spring, we're focusing on reflecting. And I like to ask my guests, what have you been reflecting on the past couple of months?
I've been reflecting upon how I'm having the time of my life. I recognize that I could be on the other side of the dirt. I'm on the right side for right now. And I haven't got it in me to think about what I don't have. So I'm taking an inventory of all the great things that I do have and enjoying the heck out of them.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. We in education, there has really been a shift. And I had a couple of shows already talking about the shift in education. And with the current COVID-19 pandemic going on, how do you think that's going to impact education, this historical moment in the future? And then I want to talk a little bit about how it's impacting all of us, but our kids specifically. So how do you think this historical moment will shape the future of education?
Well, it's awful that people have to die. So we have to acknowledge that at the outset. On the same token, or to follow that, I should say, this is the most important thing that's happened to education since the advent of public education. For the first time in America's history, it doesn't matter where you live or who your parents are. It doesn't matter how much money you have, how much access you have to wealth. This is an opportunity to democratize information in a way in which you've never been able to. This gives us a chance to allow children to learn from educators from all over the world. This is the way it should have been all along. It's actually embarrassing that we keep building 130, 140 million dollar buildings. We have surpassed the days of old. To me, this is fantastic. This is one of the reasons why so many people are struggling with online learning is first, they're not doing online learning. They're taking a packet and they're sending it to somebody. It's like sending somebody an IKEA directions. That's not directions. That's not teaching. The second is the people are making videos. Like they make a video of themselves talking about something, really talking only to themselves. That's not how you teach.
Right.
Some people are doing live instruction. We're doing live instruction. We've been doing live instruction since the first day this thing kicked off. But even in the live instruction, we're teaching as if we were teaching in the classroom, as opposed to crafting lessons that bring into play this technology that we have. For years, people would say that that some schools didn't have the same resources as other schools because they didn't have laptops, because they didn't have smart boards. Now everybody got laptops and smart boards, and now they're saying that the education is suffering. We're at a time now we can create something really awesome, and I'm excited.
Right. So how did you make the shift? Because so I know for us within our school district, some teachers were, hit the ground running and started doing the live lessons, and they were already in that modality. They had implemented flipped classrooms, and how did your teachers make that shift? How did you get them on board with this? What were some things that you put in place to have them make that shift?
You just did it. School got canceled on Thursday. We spent Friday through the weekend putting stuff together. Came back with a professional development on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, and just made it happen. Sure, there are a couple people who are whining and crying, talking about that they can't do it, but they may not be right for us. We ain't got time for that. Right. Listen, it is unconscionable for me to hear somebody talking about how hard their job is when they have a job. 430,000 people filed for unemployment in just Connecticut.
Right.
So if you still have a job and your job is to teach, telling people who don't have a job that your job is too hard for you because you have to teach in this way ain't cool. It's tone deaf. Right. So, there again, and it's only been it was just a couple people. We really didn't have that many. Too often we give too much airspace to people who are negative. Right. But the overwhelming majority of the teachers in our schools, they, obviously there are people who are anxious about it because they had never done it before and they didn't want to suck at it. So they, so they didn't know how they would look. And there's one sister we have, and she probably a little older, and she said that she calls herself a technophobe, but she said, you know what? I now gain access to my children in ways in which I never had before. Now they invite me into their homes. I invite them into mine. I get to know their family. I get more access than I've ever had. Like they're parents that I get to see now that I've been trying to hunt down all year. Now she's right over her shoulder.
Right.
I can actually talk to her, and we can converse about what is it we need to do. So I think this is fantastic. This is the greatest thing to happen in public education, education in general.
And right, because I often talk about how education has been the same, and a lot of people do. How education has been the same since the industrial age, right? And we make incremental changes to education, but for some reason they never really take off how they should. This really forces us to make that change, and quickly.
I submit to you, we haven't made any changes. The fact that you can go into a building that was built in the 1800s,
right?
That's called a school, and it functioned as it did when it was built in the 1800s.
Yes,
is evidence that in fact we've made no changes. I mean, there are schools that were founded shortly after the Civil War.
Right.
They exist in the same way. You could go to Yale, Harvard, Princeton, Penn, and they are physically structured in the same way. Some person, usually a man, usually somebody's white, stands in front of you and tells you what he thinks is important. And you write it down. And then your job is to take him back what he told you was important. As opposed to being able to use this medium that we're currently using and engage people across the globe, people alive and dead. We could imagine, if you will, if Einstein had recorded his lessons. We could have children learning from Einstein and Hawking's at the same time. You could have Hawking's lectures, Einstein's lectures, and you could craft that into an actual course.
Look, I want to touch on something that you said, because it got me kind of thinking when you said students can learn from people all over the world,
alive and dead.
Right. So how do we implement that in our schools? Is it a teacher facilitates that, or like how does that work? How do you envision that?
That depends on the school that you're in. So if you're in many of the traditional public schools, what you're going to find is that the teachers union is going to come a calling, and they're going to jump up and they're going to say that person's not certified to teach in the state of New Jersey, so that class is not a class. So you have to deal with that. That's a real thing. But if you can get past that silliness, it's really very simple. It really is very simple. What you do is you call the internet, which is the greatest library ever created. Look at the topics you wish to teach, put those topics into a course, create a course that's compelling, create it to be interactive, so it doesn't just play like a video, but in fact is interactive, and we push it. Think about this for a second. One of the reasons why some people are struggling with online learning, is because they're not using this medium in the way in which it was designed or it's being developed. Let me tell you what I mean by that. Imagine, if you will, watching a movie, but instead of the special effects and the scenes and the actors in their costumes and the hair and the makeup, you just had a man who sat there and read the lines. No, you go home. I'm not coming back. Right?
Right.
You could find the best movie in the world. If you applied it that way, it wouldn't look like anything.
Right.
The same thing is true if you take this medium and you just read into it. That's awful. That's the worst way to teach anybody anything. If you use it to engage, if you use it to pause and call upon people, put them in chat rooms where they come back, you can go in and out of them. You can put them in small groups, give them a task. You can see their assessment coming up right as they go through. You can do polls. There's so many things that you can do just running through, just what we're doing right now. Like we go through, I could pull other people in, push them out. I could bring an expert in to talk for a moment, let her go. These are, it's just a matter of planning effectively the lessons to be delivered on this medium. It's just that. People say, well, what about the little kids? The little kids, they just have too much screen time. Yeah, okay. Have you met little kids lately? Really? Then how do you keep them still? Well, you don't sit there and talk to them like this.
No.
You gotta give them something. Show them some characters. Give them some interactivity. Allow them to write something on the screen. Go back and forth with them and do the things that you need to do. It requires that educators get out of their feelings and start
Right.
to recognize that this was coming one way or the other.
Mm-hmm.
We're not going to keep this up. It's not going back. Just sure.
No.
In our lifetime, they're not going to shut down schools. Like in one of the cities that we have a school, they just built a school last year. They spent $120 million on a school, $30 million on the football stadium. They ain't closing that down.
Right.
They have too much money in that. They're too big to fail.
Right.
But there have been a lot of parents, especially a lot of Black parents, who've been looking over their child's shoulder and they said, "That's all y'all doing?"
Wow. Mm-hmm.
And then they find themselves supplementing the information because they have to.
Mm-hmm.
And then they think, okay, well, what if we got some other folks together and we did this together? We called that homeschool before, but it doesn't have to be that now.
Right.
Great.
Right.
It's a fantastic time for us. This is awesome.
Yeah. So, so I wanted to touch on you. I know you have a social worker background. So I know mental health is a passion for you. How are we addressing, or how should we be addressing our children's mental health during this time as well?
So a lot of ways. One of them is we have to continue to check to see that they're okay, but the same way that we would have in any other kid's situation. Kids are resilient.
Yeah. But
oftentimes they are taking our cues. So if you can imagine the little boy who falls down, one parent says, "Oh my God, are you okay?" He starts to cry.
Mm-hmm.
The other parent, same child falls down, says, "You're okay. You'll be fine. Come on, get up, brush it off. You'll be fine." When we don't manage our own emotional space, when we don't do an audit of our own emotions, we begin projecting onto our children our own discomfort. Kids don't know how to deal with an uncomfortable adult. Right. So if you see a little child and they watch and their mom cries, they'll start crying.
Mm-hmm.
They see their mother crying, they'll just start crying. They see their dad sad or crying, they'll just start. They'll take those same emotions and they'll internalize them. Right, so we have to manage our own emotions. And honestly, again, I go back to from a therapy perspective, it doesn't get much easier than this. You have to go anywhere, right? Just dial right in. If your child is a therapist and they're open to e-therapy, you put them in a room while they're by themselves. They go in to have the conversation. We forget that this generation has done every form of human interaction on their computer.
Right.
And the one before them did that. You know, I have colleagues who met their spouses on this thing.
Online, right. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And there are more to come. It's not just the younger ones, it's the older ones going to be everybody. This is where we are. So we need to stop treating this like it's some foreign object. We're all comfortable with this device. So we need to stop.
Yeah. And we're creative enough to be able to do, like you said, all kinds of things. You know, people have virtual happy hours and there's, it's just, we found ways to use the technology. So it's really just making this technology work for us and helping our students learn.
Take that one step further. How many of us are now talking to elderly grandparents that we were not speaking with before?
Right.
How many of us are reaching out to family members who heretofore we wouldn't have even called?
Right.
Excuse me. This is the way that we're doing it. And if we stop complaining about it, it isn't all that bad. One of the reasons why so many people are struggling with this, some of the people who are struggling with this, is because they came into it complaining. Right. This is not the same. It's not like I got that. Mm-hmm. But I've had meetings all over the country today. And I've sat right here.
Right. Right. You know, and it's a professional development. I think people are also just scared because they don't know the technology. But as educators, you have to be willing to learn. But I think it's the professional development that, in some places, they're not on it.
No, they're not. And they're using this as an excuse to not teach.
Yeah.
And teachers and principals are getting away with murder. It's dead wrong. It's dead wrong. Especially when you're looking at children from historically disadvantaged populations who already were behind in the brick and mortar context. So now you're going to take 6 months off. These kids are going to come back with atrophy. They can come back feral. I mean, think about it. If you're taking a child who could barely read on grade level, if at all, or an entire class of them who couldn't, give them 6 months off from instruction and then bring them back in the fall, you're bugging.
Yeah.
I don't understand how, honestly, as an educator, as a social worker, I don't understand how people would want it that way.
Right.
I don't understand why teachers are not jumping up and down saying, no, you got to give me my kids. I don't care. I'll do a group chat. I'm not coming back in the fall with these dudes who haven't been.
Right.
Oh. Can you imagine what the first 6 months are going to look like? 6 months of doing nothing and then they come back? Please, are you kidding me? Who wants that?
Right.
And then, go ahead.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, and then you're going to deal with people using the excuse of, because it will become the excuse of COVID. Well, we can't because they're dealing with the trauma from COVID. Okay, everybody didn't know somebody who passed away or got sick. Like it's just everybody knows somebody, you know. And for many of us who have a feeble spirit, that's going to be something that they struggle with. So they come back and then they don't get. Our kids are going to get played by so many people, and I just am not okay with it. I'm not okay with it.
So accountability, you hear a lot about accountability. What are some things that parents can do to make sure that their children are learning and holding individuals accountable for that learning?
So hard. It's so hard. It really is hard.
Yeah.
Obviously, I'm an educator, but I'm also a father, and I'm a father of students at my schools. And even I can't keep up with what my kids are supposed to be learning.
Right.
Because I'm working.
Yeah.
So short of sitting my son right here, or my son's right here, I have to trust that the people that I employ are doing their job. Even when I can pop into their classrooms as their administrator, I can still go into their classrooms, but that's not my job. My job is not to pop into their class all day. I got other stuff to do to make sure that they get paid and can do their job. So if I'm doing that, then they're not, they're going to lose out on something else. The point that I'm making is that it is very challenging for parents to be able to do that, if we're going to be honest. But we have to push. Parents have to, it just sucks, but you have to push and try and find out as much as you can.
Right. Yes, definitely. So the last time we talked, you were launching your talk show.
Yeah.
So before I let you go, I want to ask you, how did you like doing it? It was great. I loved it. I love that you infused, the social work, aspect of it as well. So how did you like doing your talk show?
I feel so fortunate and blessed to have had the opportunity. And I know for a lot of people, that would have been the opportunity of a lifetime. And it was, I really enjoyed myself and the people were very, very kind. The thing I love doing the most is working with kids, honestly.
Right.
So, I mean, it was fun for what it was fun for. And if something like that presents itself again, I suppose I'll engage it. But really what I like to do is I just like working with kids. That's really what I wake up to do that. And honestly, again, and give you some behind the scenes stuff, the only way I was going to even do that was if they accommodated my necessity to work with kids. So I was not going to give up my job to do it at all, despite whatever numbers they were throwing in front of me and how much they could pay me. They did not put together enough zeros to make me leave my position. They don't have them.
Right. And since you have that mental health background, what would you say to educators out there who are, working with our students and, making sure that they get what they need? How would you recommend that we take care of self?
Well, I don't know how each person takes care of themselves, so I can't speak to that. But what I can say is that I tend to feel that people who set their mind in a positive place tend to be positive. I'll share with you our dinner conversation last night. My younger son, I was telling him that you're just negative. Like, really, you always have this way to ask you, how's your day? Trash. How was class? Not good. I mean, so much so that you build this ecosystem around you that's just the expectation for you.
Right.
Like, that's just what you expect. And so you can't experience the joys of life if you're looking for what you don't like about it. The same is true of any age. You have to come with an aggressive positivity. People are going to be born and die during your lifetime. That's a fact. Lives will be gained and lost. Tragedies will occur and you will escape them. These are the conditions of living. Now you can accept them if you choose to live. And as a person who's choosing to live, you have to accept that that's part of life. That's just a part of it. Dirt is necessary for grass to grow. In fact, if you want to find the tallest tree, look for the deepest seed in the darkest bowels of the earth. So for us, we have to recognize that sometimes the darker the day, the deeper the dirt, the more powerful the tree. And so if you were going through some dark times, that just means that there's a brighter day ahead.
Wow. Dr. Perry, I want to thank you so much. I love your words there, and it's such a great segue for our next guest that's coming up. I want to show everybody your contact information because you speak all over. Now it's virtually, and it's just as powerful as it is live. So I'm going to show that, but I just want to thank you so much for being here. And we are going to take a quick break, but when we come back, we're going to talk to Juanita Marie Simpson, and she wrote a book called I Love You More. And it really addresses some of the things that we were talking about in reference to grief and loss. So Dr. Perry, thank you so much and be well.
Thank you. All the best.
Looking for a way to promote yourself or business? Do you need a quick and easy way for your clients or audience to see what you're about? Myanmar Productions is the solution to your promotional needs. A video on a landing page can help increase conversions by 80% or more. And marketers who use video grow revenue 49% faster than non-video users. With our personal attention to detail, we will create a video that will help you promote yourself or business professionally and attract the attention of potential customers. 64% of consumers make a purchase after watching branded social videos, and an initial email with the video receives an increased click-through rate by 96%. We create videos for business owners, authors, speakers, and more. From storyboarding and voiceovers to editing, Myanmar Productions will work with you to create a promotional video that will increase your visibility and generate revenue. Family is our foundation, and with Myanmar Productions, our family is there for you. For a free consultation, contact us at myanmarproductions@gmail.com or call us at 516-289-4947.
You need
on.
Welcome back to Conversations with Verdel Jones. As you see, I have my next guest here, Juanita Marie Simpson. Thank you so much for joining us on Conversations with Verdel Jones. I'm excited for our conversation.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, Verdel. I appreciate it.
Yes. So in this season, the spring season, our fifth season in the spring, we're talking about reflecting. And I like to ask my guests, what have you been reflecting on these last few months?
Okay, a lot has been thrown at me this last few months on top of everything that I was going through. But you know, Verdel, I truly believe in God, and I've been reflecting on how I'm going to get past and get through the tunnel. I believe that I'm going through a tunnel now. And, you know, it's interesting because going back to something Dr. Perry ended with, when you go through a really bad season, or if you have a dirt helps a tree to grow, or something along those lines, he said. And it touched me when he said that, because I'm like, wow.
That was powerful. That was a beautiful segue to our conversation. You know?
It was. I was like, did they plan that?
I know. As soon as he said it, I was like,
yeah.
So you're an educator, and you are also a new author, and your book, I Love You More, is newly released, and I had the opportunity to read it. It's definitely a great read, and it really shares the story of your legacy. And So let's talk about legacy a little bit. What does legacy mean to you?
Okay, so with my particular family, I've lost my mom, dad, now Rayco. His mom and dad are both deceased. So technically in our family, I am the matriarch. I am it with my kids because I do not have siblings. And so it's a situation to me. I wanted to write a book so that my life extends. In other words, even when I'm gone, my grandkids, great grandkids, and so on and so forth will know who I am, who my husband is, our story, our love story. They will know their grandparents and great grandparents and so on and so forth. So it's almost like it's immortal. The book
Right.
help us to be immortal.
Right. It lives on.
Correct.
Right. Yeah. And the journey, the journey does continue.
Correct.
And
so go ahead. Sorry.
So we were, in the last when we were talking to Dr. Perry, we were talking about grief and loss. So there's loss and grief all around us, and we're going to talk about the impetus for you writing the book. But how would you recommend, or what would you say to somebody that's dealing with grief, especially in this COVID-19 era that we're in?
I have to be honest with you, getting closer to God, and I don't know if everyone believes in God, but I do, and getting closer to God and getting a personal relationship with Him, I mean literally a close relationship with Him, has been the number one help for me, because life goes on, and you have to do the day-to-day, and every little thing was affecting me, everything. If someone said something or whatever, and I said, I have to get strong. I have to do this, not for myself, for my children and my grandchildren. Right. They have to have someone. So I literally depend on God. And I think for anyone going through grief, you have to be that impetus, if you will, to help the rest of your family that's here. You have to be strong one. If, something else Dr. Perry said, not that I want to keep harping on what he has said, he said that when you're raising children, if they see you crying all the time, they cry. If you put on a strong foundation and tell them, you know what, we can do this, we're going to be okay, and you keep on chugging on, you help your kids. And we have 4 adult kids. And they're adults, yes, but they lost their father. So someone has to be strong. And so that's what I've taken on, but I can't do it by myself.
Right.
I take it on, but by the grace of God.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. So why did you mentioned legacy and the reason why you wanted to put this, what was the spark for you to write I Love You More?
Okay. When Ray and I were together 41 years, okay? A little over. Anyway, many times people would say to us, we'd have a barbecue, we'd have people over to the house out here in Long Island, and they would say, oh, you guys should write a book, because we're both from Brooklyn. I'm from Bedford-Stuyvesant. He was from Flatbush. And, we had a very humble upbringing with our parents, which is all explained in the book. So a lot of times his friends or my friends or both would say, you guys should write a book about this. This is crazy how you guys just went from rags to riches. And no, we weren't rich. However, after he passed, I remember having a vision of him. I had a vision of him. And I remember after the vision, I woke up crying in the morning. And I said, you know what, I'm just going to write some memoirs. I'm just going to write little notes about Ray and I. And so I was looking for a journal or something to write the notes in. And we have this wrought iron, like a little bookshelf in our master bedroom. And so I pulled it out. And when I pulled it out to look for a journal, all the books fell. And I said, oh. So I put all the books back, pushed it back against the wall. And then this one journal, true story, fell out. I didn't know it was a journal at the time, but this book fell out face down. I turned it around and it said, Love You More. And I said, oh my God, wow, I'm going to use this. And it wasn't used. It was a brand new journal in pink. So I started writing little notes.
Mm.
That's how I started. And I literally wasn't even thinking about a book. I was thinking about just writing notes about our life together. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
And I happened to call a very close friend of mine,
Mm-hmm.
who I'm talking to right now. And I got to be honest with you, the rest is history. And that's how the book started.
Right. Yeah. And I'm glad you did. I'm glad you did. You mentioned your upbringing and you and Ray, you know, where you came from, and where you know, and how you both were able to come together, coalesce, and create a beautiful legacy, a beautiful family. As you were growing up, how did your upbringing kind of make you view what a family should be?
That's a very good question. I like that question.
Mm.
I was raised a single mom, and an only child, and literally would have to walk to my aunt's house to get dinner sometimes because my mom just didn't have the means to give me dinner. So we would walk from my, there was a 1-bedroom apartment in Vernon Avenue to the Marcy Projects. And we would go to my aunt's house, who had an apartment in the projects, and she would make dinner for all of us, and that's where I would eat dinner. So this upbringing, this very humble upbringing with just my mom and I, it was just my mom and I, that's it.
Right.
When I got to a certain age and when I met Ray at 19, I said, you know what? I want a family, and I want them to be close. I mean, my adult children, I'm very proud of them. They are so close. And it's because of the way Ray and I have raised them. When they would get into their fights, it's 4 of them. Oh, she hit me. I said, listen, you better go work it out. Because if I go in there, I'll beat both of you. So they didn't want that. So they'd be like, okay, we're going to work it out. So even now, they are so close. They have little conversations and I'm not even part of it. And that's fine. That's
right.
The way I raised them.
That's right.
So I'm really proud of them.
So when you and Ray got together, was there like an agreement because you know you come and the interesting thing is when I think about you and Ray, I think about how my parents were raised in a similar situation. You grew up with your parents and, you know, his mom and your mom. My parents didn't grow up with their parents at all.
Right.
And, you know, but they made, and I don't know if it was a pact that they said, we're going to do this, but they did. And they've been married, you know, over 50 years. So was that the situation with you and Ray? Did you make a pact to say, look, we're going to do it?
Yes, that's exactly right. That's it. You know, and that's why I love your mom and dad so much. Because they remind us of Ray and I. And Ray has said that. He's not here now, but he has said that. Because when we were walking in Prospect Park, when we were young, and I'd only known him, I don't know, whatever months, and he gets on his knee and he's like, I think we should get married. I'm like, married? And I started laughing. I'm like, I'm a kid. What are you talking? I don't even know you. And you know, he's being of Jamaican and Panamanian descent. He got a little mad there because it was like, are you dissing me? So, the term wasn't used back then, but that's what it meant. That's what it meant. And I said, well, I got to talk to my mom. I don't even know you. Like, this is crazy. What are you talking about? So he didn't really talk to me. He kept walking in Prospect Park and he didn't say anything. So I kind of caught up to him and I said, well, maybe when we get to know each other. And so when we finally did decide this is what we're going to do, I said to him, Ray, listen, we're going to make this work no matter what, what. And then that's exactly what we said. We said, no matter what, if we have no food, if we cheat, whatever the case may be, I don't care what it is. If you curse me out, if I curse you out, I don't care. We are sticking together because at the end of the day, you know when you know when you know. And I knew from day one, and obviously he knew too, that he was my guy. So no matter what, we decided to stay.
That's right. And what was the secret to that success? You made that pact. you stayed together. But you could say that all you want, but you have to do it. So what is the secret to a successful marriage? There's ups and downs, highs and lows, but what's the secret to that success?
I've said this to my kids, Verdel. The secret is when you're going through a rough patch, whatever that patch is, and you lay in that bed at night and you know you can't even breathe without that person.
Mm-hmm.
You just can't make it without that person. And that's what, to me, is the secret of success, because that will break down those barriers. That will break down that pride that we all get, everyone.
Right.
And it'll make you come to that person. And if, whatever you have to say, if you have to beg, if you have to, listen, let's work this out. Let's talk, whatever. I'm sorry, or you're sorry, or whoever's sorry. Let's make it happen. And that is the secret to success, because no matter what, you don't let pride get in the way. Because pride is a seed of the devil. Because he always wants to seek to destroy.
Separate. Yes.
You know what I mean? And separate us. So if you get rid of that pride and you say, I'm going to eat crow and I'm going to go tell this person, they're in my heart, no matter what.
Right.
Curse me out. I might have to curse them out back another time, but I got to make this work.
That's right.
That's in your heart. You can't force that, Verdel. That's in your heart. That's something that's in you, and it's just like eating. You can't survive without that person, and that's what's making this whole thing so difficult for me. And that's another reason I wrote the book, because it was like my way of reaching back to Ray.
Absolutely. So we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to continue this conversation.
Sure.
Hello, my name is Maya Jones, and I am the editor-in-chief and founder of Shades of Long Island. Shades of Long Island is a website and a media outlet that highlights stories related to minorities, millennials, and Generation Z on Long Island. Check out the site because you're going to get great content, diverse content, local content, Long Island content.
Welcome back to Conversations with Verdel Jones. Juanita, thank you so much for being a guest on Conversations with Verdel Jones. I'm really enjoying the conversation about your new book, I Love You More.
Thank you.
Great read about family, faith, love, forgiveness, unconditional love, agape love, as I like to say.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
throughout the book, you talk about traditions that your family and you have, and you make mention that you didn't have some of those traditions growing up, so you created your own traditions. What is one of your favorite traditions that you do, and how can people develop their own traditions with their families?
Well, it's things, for me, it was things that I would have seen other friends. You see, being an only child and being raised away from such humble beginnings, as I stated, you see other families and you see things they do. And not that you're jealous, but you say to yourself, oh, I like that. And so what I did was implemented that into my family setting, because I thought it was so nice and so warm, and that's exactly what I did. And, one of the things, for instance, when they were growing up, Ray's mother would come over and she would cook. And so I wanted the kids to be familiar with the Jamaican food and Panamanian food and all the different foods. So instead of just eating, pork and beans or whatever. I wanted them to eat like cultural food. So she would cook, and then on holidays we would eat all early because that's a Jamaican tradition where you eat at like 2:00 on, you know, and the entire family sits at the table. So that was a tradition. Another tradition we did was at Christmas, we all sit around, even to this day, we all sit around in the den, and we one by one take presents under the tree, and we all open it. So each person gets one present, and we all open it at the same time. So everyone's sharing that particular gift that they got.
Right.
So different traditions.
Right, and it's so meaningful, and those are things that, you know, your children will pass on to their children, and it's a beautiful thing, and you create, you know, families can create their own ways of doing things, and it's so memorable, and those are things that, you know, you tend to want to keep that going.
It's true, and it's important. It's very important.
Very important.
So those are some of the things I've done, you know, and you know, and I tell the kids, as you start your families, you can expand on those traditions.
Right.
But it's very cute too, because even now, like last Christmas was the first Christmas without Ray, and all of the adult kids came with their spouses, and the grandchildren. We're about to have our 4th grandchild in August, and that's going to be the first grandson. So they all came, and we celebrated our tradition where they all opened up the gifts, and you know, it was kind of cool.
Yeah. So you had in the book, you mentioned your mom, and you had a very, very, and still have a very close relationship with your mother. She was a great influence in your life. What did your mother teach you about being a mom?
Oh, that's a good question. My mom taught me how to be patient. My mom taught me how to respect the spouse of my child, because her whole thought was, if I gave agreement for you to marry this person, even if you guys argue, and even if I think he or she is wrong, I'm going to stay out of it because I gave agreement, and now you're a grown woman or man. So she taught me that. And that's not easy, because my mom lived upstairs in our home. It's a dual ranch. And she had her own apartment in our home. And she heard Ray and I sometimes arguing, and she wouldn't say a word because her whole mindset was, I gave approval for you to marry him. You wanted to marry him. And I did ask her for approval, and Ray came to her too to ask for my hand in marriage. So after that, she says, okay, you're gonna figure it out. And one thing I love about my mom, and oh boy, when she was, during her last days, I remember sitting in the backyard with her, and she was always cold. When you have cancer, you just get really cold, and so she had this blanket on her, and we're in the middle of the summer. And I said, Ma, I don't know what I'm going to do without you. And she said, you'll be fine. She said, you know, Ray's not perfect, but oh my God, he loves you so very much, and he'll always love you. And that touched me. And I said, wow. I said, but he's such a pain in the neck sometimes. She said, it does. She said, so are you. And I'm like, what? Not me. But funny. That's what my mother taught me, patience. She taught me that whole, as you say, agape love, and how to just never let go, never give up, never give up. She taught me that.
She also had an influence on you that made you an educator, or that kind of influenced your decision to be an educator. How did she impact you with that?
I'll tell you exactly. My mom had, she took care of, I want to say, special needs adults. Back in the day, they had a different term for it, but I will not use that term. Special needs clients out of Willowbrook. And I know many people have heard of Willowbrook. And she had them in the home. And so many times I would help her. I would help her feed them. I would help her. They were very, very needy. Okay. I would help her feed them. Sometimes I'd help her wash them. Sometimes she would do all of the intricate work, or I'd do the paperwork or whatever. So that's how, I was like, wow, that's interesting. And it kind of geared me to the special needs clientele. On top of that, when I was very young, my mom with my aunt had a nursery. And the nursery was for, we had it in Brooklyn, in Bedford-Stuyvesant, because a lot of the moms there were single moms. They had to work 2 jobs or whatever the case may be. So what I did, I always loved math. Always loved math. Oh my God. So what I would do is when the kids would come back to the nursery from school, I would get them off the bus or whatever. And then I'd walk them into the nursery. And then I'd say, okay, I'd had a big round table. I said, okay, everybody sit down. We're going to do our homework. So I would help them. Now I help them with English and science and so forth.
Right.
But I did love the math. And so, I always loved children. Always loved children.
Wow.
And yeah, I had this thing for children. I mean, if I could have had of my own 8 children, but I probably wouldn't be here because I think Ray would have killed me. But I always loved children. And so when my mom had this nursery, after a while, I said to her, and I stayed home to raise my own children until they were in high school. So I said to my mom and I said to Ray, I said, you know what? I think I want to go and start teaching now. And, my mom said, really? And I said, yeah, I think I want special needs. And so she said, oh, you should. And that's how it branched out. That's
right. So what do you want people to learn from your book or take from your book? And because I mentioned at the top of the show that you're an educator and you want people to learn, but you also want to support them. So how can your book support and help people learn something about themselves?
Another good question. My book is a couple of things. True love is one. Endurance is another. So when I say endurance, never giving up. I want, I've heard from so many, as I said, I teach, but I teach the high school level. So I've heard from so many young girls. Oh, there's no good guys out there. Oh, they're all whatever. And a lot of the girls put themselves in compromising positions trying to get the love of a guy. Do you understand what I mean? So I would like my book, and this is for all cultures, I would like my book to hone in to these young girls and say, hey, if you know when you know, and you don't have to compromise yourself for true love. You don't.
Right.
You don't. If it's true love, it's going to stick right by you until death do you part.
Right. So what's next? Where do you see yourself going with sharing your book of love and legacy?
Well, because of COVID, I'm kind of a little hampered now. It is on Amazon. All you have to do is put in my name in the search bar and it comes right up. I am in the process, actually, of writing a second book.
Okay.
It is entitled Survival, but by the Grace of God. It's going to segue from Love You More. Yeah. As I finish the other book, and with these 2 books, my hope is to do some book signings. My hope is to reach a massive audience. My hope is to see wherever it goes. I mean, I would love it to go as far as it goes. My initial want was it to be a legacy for my family, for my children and grandchildren. And that doesn't go without saying. That's initial. So if nothing else, it will be the legacy. However, I do like you said, my passion is teaching. I do want to help others. So if I can help
Right.
other young people, boys or girls, I would love that. I would love that.
That's awesome. Awesome. Thank you, Juanita. I want to, thank you for being a guest on Conversations with Verdel Jones. It's been a pleasure. And if the contact information I will have up there so people can get your book. It is a great read, again, of love, faith, and legacy. And again, I want to thank you. We're going to take a quick break. And when I come back, thank you. I'm going to share my final thoughts.
So as a youth, the opportunity to see what it looks like and be a part of it.
Go for it.
Thank you for watching Conversations with Verdel Jones. We had two awesome educators on our show. Dr. Steve Perry, so his information will be up there. If you want to find out more about him and the information that he shared with us, and also he speaks all over the place, you can contact him or reach him there. We also had Juanita Marie Simpson. She's an educator and an author, and her contact information is there. Her book, I Love You More, is available on Amazon, so make sure you pick that up. It is a great read of love, legacy, and faith, and just a great inspirational story. Again, I want to thank you for watching Conversations with Verdel Jones, and we'll see you next time.